Steve Young is back for his regular hits on KMBR, and I think this is the time now that we needed to hear from Steve Young the most. As you guys know, I love sharing Steve Young's clips with you because he presents such a knowledgeable, logical, thoughtful, emotionally intelligent. Like he is able to assess and discuss football from every single perspective as a Hall of Famer, as a guy who's won Super Bowls, but he also understands all the intricacies of the game, including off field distractions and negotiations and all of those things. So, we've heard a lot of noise about the Brandon Aiyuk Trent Williams update. This might be, not might, this is the best I've heard someone talk about this. Like, and just kind of discuss it from multiple different perspectives. It does kind of sound like, Steve probably does have a good handle of what is going on behind the scenes, just based on the things that he's saying. And he's able to approach the situation from multiple perspectives, multiple angles, and it's just refreshing to hear because of how much noise that we've heard. It's been insane. So this particular part of this interview on KMBR will be about just the distractions and the potential concerns that Steve Young sees with this situation. I'm going to link the whole. So if you want to watch the whole interview, you can even bounce out right now. I'm going to drop the link in the description so you can go check out the whole thing on KMBR. But if you want to just listen to this little part, feel free. Then go drop into the link after the listen to the full thing. But Steve Young says some things here, and I have some thoughts. So if you make it all the way through, I'm going to react to it on the other side.
Let's talk about the noisy Niners offseason and how like that affects them going into the season. I mean, how do you look at it?
Yeah, it's hard. Now we got to take a minute here because when you're one of the best in the league, a handful of teams that are best rosters. They're going to be there and at the end, and so that brings scrutiny. It brings everything, and what you don't want is the noise makes what I always say with Tony Romo and Jessica Simpson. Right, the job's already hard. Don't go to Mexico in the off week and then make it harder, like with more drama, more publicity, more. And so that's why the job of winning the Super Bowl, as you saw last year, can be so maddeningly close, but it's super hard. Don't do stupid stuff that makes it harder. But as a collective group, it's hard to say that to 70 people, including managers and coaches, and And so I don't like noisy off seasons. I think it portends more. You have to do more. And as we saw, we almost did it, but we can't afford to be, get into trouble because the people are going to get better. The Eagles are quietly trying to get better. They're coming. We stuck it to them. That's all they think about every day, is what happened, what the 49ers did to them, and humiliated them at home. Like that's not gonna go away. So then that's all they think about. And the Rams, that's all they think about is beating the 49ers. In fact, most of the offseason is spent. Every team, 31 other teams, including the Chiefs, probably spent most of the time figuring out how to beat the 49ers. Because if you can beat the 49ers, then you're going to beat everybody else because they're the ones that are most innovative. They're the ones that are most thoughtful. It's all the stuff. So you can't have a noisy offseason or make things more complicated when everybody else is all they're thinking about. So, yes, that's a concern. And I think it's what I don't especially like about it is now where we are today, still talking about it, still wondering, and Brandon, the one thing about we have an owner and a general manager and a head coach. When I say desperate or need or want or are maniacally focused or whatever you want to do about a Super Bowl, they all, for different reasons in their lives, have come to this place with this visceral, deep need to get this done and do it now. And so with that, you can either jump in and be part of the solution or you can take advantage in small ways. And I think that, with the big superstars, when you're the best defensive end in the league like Nick Bosa, or you're the best tackle in football like Trent Williams, going back to the well or holding out or making sure that you get every last dollar, everybody kind of like, because you're going to set the market. Nick Bosa was going to set the market. Trent's going to set the market. You kind of get it in a way. It's a bummer. Like, I wish that Trent would have done this earlier, or the 49ers, and I get all that. But Brandon, because of his youth and because he's not going to set the market, yet wants to set the market, says, I want to be traded. And then goes through this, I don't know how to put it, but it was like, bro, like, if you want to tear up the contract and do something big, then you might want to pick, you might want to go the 5th year and go prove it out, like, to make sure that everybody's on board with you setting the market. Or if you're going to ask to be traded, then when they make a trade that works for them, you got to say you're up for it. You don't say, oh, no, that doesn't work for me. Because then it was like, well, what do you want? And so there's been a back and forth that's been very, I don't know. They can get mended. It's not like they're like broken relationships, but it's stretched. It's strained. And I think that and I think at the end of the day, Brandon's now sitting in front of a contract that's probably 49ers have stretched as much as they possibly can. They don't want to set the market. They don't want to do it. They don't think it's the time. And so they're kind of they're tapped. And then Brandon doesn't know. He already said he's not going to get. I'm not going to. I demand to be traded. I won't. Oh no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. And so now he's in a bind. Does he come back for the 5th year and just got to prove it out again and play off the contract, or take what they've given him? And I think it's inevitable that he has to do one of those two things. And it's probably hard for him after all the chit-chat and chatter to do it. But in the end, what is the team feeling? What is happening? That's all they talk about every day. It's worn them out through the preseason. It's going to go. Who knows how it's going to go into the season? And again, because of the, I don't want to put desperation because it's the wrong word, but of course everyone's desperate for the Super Bowl. But it's like the nut tree, right, Tom? It's like it has to happen this year. So you've got an owner who's willing to stretch, who's willing to go the extra mile. A general manager, like you, but don't take advantage of it. Ryan Williams, don't try to stick it to him. Don't do things that are just going to conflate it to cause you more grief. And that's kind of where we are, which is too bad, because we should be maniacally focused on doing the very thing that everybody wants to get done. And it doesn't mean we can't do it. It doesn't mean that Brandon can't sign and come back and everybody's kumbaya, we get playing good football. I get all that. But when we look at how hard it is to do, everyone's super focused on us, and people are getting better. Even the Cardinals got better theoretically. It's just, this is not what we want to be doing today. I can guarantee you.
How tough is it? And I'm sure you've been through this with teammates, but hey, talk about the dilemma, because football's not baseball, it's not basketball, not guaranteed contracts. So I understand wanting to make as much money as you possibly can while you have that limited window to make it. Now, there's differences between first contract, second contract. A lot of times, first contract you made, that's the one you want to get all your money. But talk about the dilemma, Steve, some of these football players have in getting a little more money, but not having maybe as much fun, or going to work isn't as exhilarating or not as stimulating because the coach isn't great or the locker room isn't fun to be in. Like, how much should players weigh that? How much should they say, you know what, this isn't monetary, but this is worth something to me. Being a part of this coaching staff, this team, I love going to work every day. Like, I don't know if young players, I'm not saying they shouldn't go for every dollar. I'm just saying that they should look at that as capital and they try to figure out how much their happiness in being there is worth.
It goes two directions. The problem is that there's a disparity in the age. Like the owners and general managers should not weaponize the fact that playing for the 49ers is super cool and that we're the best in the league and we're going to go for the Super Bowl and you're lucky to be here and all the things that this is a great offense. You'll never be better. See Jimmy Garoppolo if you want to know the difference between being here and not. But if there's this. So you got to be careful. If the older guys, like the owner and the general manager, weaponize it, then that's not cool. But they haven't, and I don't think they do that. I watch closely for that and listen closely and pay attention, and I don't think they could, especially as they get irritated and pissed in negotiations, they could weaponize it. They don't, and I appreciate that in them. As a young player, because you're young and you don't know as much, and you see what people are making, and you say to yourself, I'm the best in the league. I love that. Go say it. But then you have to have context, and that's where to me the agent is really vital, to be able to play a role, to equally not use the power in your ability against you, against the team, to try to extract the last dollar. When you're looking for the very last dollar to prove that you are the best, like I'm the best in the league and I'm going to prove it with this contract. Okay, but how far am I willing to go to try to prove it? And that's your question. Don't you think that they should recognize that it doesn't necessarily worth giving up everything, that how the team feels about it, how it feels timing-wise, what those last dollars mean to the big picture, to you. It's pretty clear that he's voted with his feet now that I don't want to be traded. Yeah. And I think they had a pretty good one where we would have had somebody that would really helped us, but he didn't want to do it. So it's okay. Well, then what do you want? Well, I want the most money for any receiver, and I want to set the market, but I want to stay here. And that's where the agents got to be able to figure out a way to bring that player to see the values other than the dollars, to see the things that keep in context, bro, that there's a lot of great players out there that are playing with brutal teams that have no chance to see the full measure of who they could be as a player, and that's not you. And so the owner's not using it as a weapon against you. Don't use it back against him. And when they feel like maybe you are, that's when things go haywire. And you don't want them to go haywire. And it doesn't mean they can't get mended. It doesn't mean you can't fix it. It's just that, to your original question, what's with the noise? And how hard is this to do? And if we really are, the window never closes, and it's not going to close on us, but it'll narrow. It'll narrow significantly next year. So if the window's open as it's going to be for some time right now, everybody needs to be on board. And that's why Trent, let's not forget, Trent, I understand. You're the best tackle in the game. I get it. No one doesn't say it to you. No one doesn't appreciate it. Is this when did he get his contract? 18 months ago? When was that?
Yeah, I think it was, the last year was the first year, but or maybe it was 2 years ago, but this was like the last year of his guaranteed portion.
Like you've set the market. I think he set the market. I'm sure if I'm wrong, I'll get yelled at, but I think he set the market, and I think Jed and everybody's willing to do that because he's the best tackle in the league. And then now you're going to come back and say, no, I want to set it again because there's another $8 million collectively that I can go get, and I'm on the last contract, and I'm getting old. It's like, bro, do you not see what we're trying to get done here? And look, it doesn't mean that Jed should keep that money. It doesn't mean that, I get it. It's all contextual to your original question. And so I think that the noise that Trent has made, which luckily Brandon's covered him a little bit, I don't know. When you're the best in the league, you've been here for a while, you're older, you're more mature, there's a way to do this that doesn't. Now we're still here, and I don't. Yeah. So look, Brandon's caused his own grief in some ways. I'm sure the 49ers own their part of it, but Trent's done the same. Created some grief as well. Again, get signed. Opening day, we beat the Jets on Monday night, and it's all kumbaya. But as a player, Tom, that the wear and tear of the season, we look back on why didn't we get the full amount of who we were, what's wrong, and then we wonder what happened, and we have to look back at a noisy offseason. So that's all.
Typically, I like to look at Steve Young as one of those authority figures in this sport. When it comes to evaluation, analysis, he just obviously understands it. He understands the game from a player's perspective, from a media member's perspective. He's done it all. So he's such a great resource to pull from. And I was, hoping to feel a little bit better after, this little clip, but I don't feel better. I don't feel better about the situation. In fact, Steve Young kind of hits home on all the concerns and the fallbacks and pitfalls of the situation that I believe are true as well. So it's really challenging to listen to a guy who you're like, come on, Steve, be like, it's not that big of a deal. And he's like, yeah, it's concerning. yeah, all this offseason distraction, all this, all that. It's very concerning. And again, he's speaking to this from a perspective of being in that locker room. So he's sensing the concern. He's sensing the mess. He's sensing that, yeah, this isn't normal. This isn't ideal. This isn't beneficial to anyone winning football games. This is a distraction. It's cause for concern. So you're hearing it from Steve Young directly that this is a cause for concern. We already knew that, but he was talking about, how this is running thin for everyone in that locker room. It's running thin for everyone in the organization. It's running thin for the fans. It's running thin for people who cover this team. It's literally wearing everyone out. And he's basically saying that, yes, this is how they feel on the football team as well. So that's not great. He also talks, obviously he's talking about Trent. He's talking about Brandon Aiyuk. These, multiple aspects of both of their situations. It's just, this situation is insane. Like, my head is spinning just trying to gather the words for like this whole situation. It's like, what do we do here? Like, are we not going to pay him? Are we not going to pay either one of them? Are we not going to trade either one of them either? So that we're just going to sit here. We're just going to sit in this and continue to let it be a problem. I don't even know. I don't care who's at fault at this point. I really don't. Whose fault is I don't care. I really feel like if you're speaking at this from a fan perspective, which I'll put my fan hat on right now, fans care about winning football games. They don't care about winning negotiations. And I get that. That's a different thought process than what's actually at hand, right? But it is what it is. This is a team that has so many passionate fans that all they want to do is win. And what the 49ers are doing right now, regardless of their fault or not their fault, they're not winning. They're not winning off the field. And that is making a lot of people nervous with the season being 2 weeks away. And your top two players, two of your top two players, aren't here. So, again, phenomenal stuff by Steve Young. It just unfortunately didn't present any confidence. Not that we had any to begin with, but it definitely didn't add to it. It definitely kind of solidified the point that, like, yeah, this is messy, and it's at a point where it's starting to have deteriorating effects to not only the locker room but everything surrounding it, and that's where you start to get worried as a fan of like, well, we signed up for Super Bowls as a fan, and what I'm seeing play out and what I'm hearing from guys like Steve Young is all we are doing is hurting those chances. Boy, I feel like I can't believe that we're still talking. I'm just still kind of at a loss. I can't believe we're talking about this. I mean, if you've listened this long, kudos to you. Um, Let me know what you think about this situation in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.